Hello, I'm Chris Williams from Read Comics They're Bad For You, the name of my YouTube channel. Or if you're watching this on BitChute, the name of my BitChute channel is Comic Freak. If you're watching this on Library when it's finally up, thank you for subscribing. We're going to be talking about box office. Star Wars Rise of Skywalker is the first $500 million disappointment. There's some debate whether the newest installment in the Star Wars saga is a total flop or not. It has reached over $1 billion, but it took like $800 million to promote and make the movie, so I wouldn't say that's actually making a lot of money in profit. But let's get into this article. Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker played like a conventional front-loaded blockbuster movie as opposed to a Christmas biggie or even a recent Disney biggie in terms of legs and post-release reception. With $5.36 million, minus 36% in its sixth weekend of domestic release, Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker has now passed the $500 million mark. Even in an ever-expanding global marketplace where The Rise of Skywalker became the 46th movie to pass $1 billion worldwide, and yet if you look at Frozen 2, there's a good chance that Frozen 2 will surpass Star Wars Episode 9. This just tells you how much money it's made in the interim when Frozen 2 was first released and everyone saw it was going to be a bomb, but it had legs later on. It looks like it's galloping to the finish line and it's going to surpass Star Wars Episode 9 while doing it. And Scott Middleton here, always the reliable shill for Disney, basically just goes on to say how Episode 9 compared to other movies is doing really well. Well, we're not really talking about other movies like The Desolation of Smaug or other movies released around the same time of that year as Episode 9 was. We're talking about the fact that Episode 9 is not even making the money any other previous installment of the Star Wars saga has made. Or otherwise, I'm trying to say the fact that the third installment of most Star Wars trilogies has always made more money than the previous second installment. But this one is basically just tripping along on an uneven path, and it's just barely maybe cracked The Last Jedi's gross, and that's just horrible. For a Star Wars movie, this is absolutely terrible, especially if you compare it to The Force Awakens, which made, 3.77 times $238 million in 2015. Then you go on to say that Force Awakens had a Christmas and New Year's fall on a Friday as opposed to a Wednesday, so you're making an excuse that this was all due to the dates when the movie was released, why it's making so much less money. Then, the film was firing on all cylinders for the first week with a terrific $29 million first through Monday gross and a $32 million Christmas Day haul. It didn't really start to slow down until its second weekend, when it dropped 71% on Friday and 59% for the weekend despite being in full holiday break mode. That is because people didn't like the movie. But you go on to make excuses. Because you sound if it hadn't had that drop in viewership, it would have made as much as Captain America Civil War with $408 million domestic from a $179 million debut in May of 2016. I'm assuming you're using Captain America as an excuse because as soon as you started mentioning that it dropped 71% on Friday and 59% for the whole weekend, you started bringing up Captain America. And then you say, what's disconcerting aside from the whole mediocre reviews and online hand-wringing of what could have been or should have been a big release for Disney? You even go on to say that Christopher Robin has earned more money respectively, than Star Wars Episode 9. You have it written right down there. Christopher Robin legged out to $99 million from a $25 million launch in August of 2018, despite mixed reviews. So when Rise of Skywalker opened with only $177 million, there was a little reason for alarm. But there is now, because even Christopher Robin apparently had better legs than it. Apparently people were going to it well into the month after it was released. I mean, it started out with a $25 million launch, but it ended up legging out to $99 million. Unlike Star Wars Episode 9, that basically people were abandoning it the days after it was released. And now, it's barely over $1 billion, and I think well under Rogue One still. So, what can I say? At least Christopher Robin was good for something, huh? But don't forget Frozen 2, even though it's a bad, horrible movie and everyone is hating on it, it still has better legs than Star Wars Episode 9. Then the article goes on to say, after all, the opening weekend was leaned straight into the Christmas season, and even for fans-only fantasy franchise flicks, like he mentions The Hobbit, but he also mentions the other movies that were pulled out of theaters and basically set to be released later on, like Wonder Woman and the such. But he also mentions Cats, and he also mentions Jumanji: The Next Level. He mentions that it was the only real competition for Star Wars Episode 9. But as you can see, Jumanji proved to be far leggier in the department than Star Wars Episode 9 ever proved to be. Scott Mendelson then goes on to say, it does matter then the film more or less collapsed after Christmas and ended up earning less in North America than Rogue One, a Star Wars story. Proving that, once again, Jumanji, like its previous installment, can go up against Star Wars as long as it's being headed by Disney. Episode 9 did make more money, but you gotta understand, after the Christmas holidays, the crowds were still going to Jumanji, while less and less people were going to see Star Wars Episode 9. The article continues with, that's not quite Man of Steel earns more than Justice League, but it's in the same ballpark. To be fair, some of this could have just be the calendar. The Last Jedi struggled after its opening weekend, partially because of the holiday break. Didn't begin until its second Monday. Again, the article blames the position of when the movie was released for why no one was going to see Star Wars Episode 9, and not the fact that it was just a bad movie, whose predecessor, The Last Jedi, just coasted on the goodwill of people who had watched The Force Awakens, and utterly tarnished that goodwill, and basically no one wanted to see this new Star Wars movie. Then Scott Mendelson makes another excuse, how he mentions that this is the 5th Star Wars movie over the last 5 years, and the fact that even with the hook that this is the end of the Skywalker saga, people still weren't going to see it. The point he's trying to make is that Star Wars used to be special when they came out because there were so few of them. Now that they're being made every year, people just don't feel the need to go and see them because they're just another sci-fi movie. That's just an excuse. If they were good and well-made sci-fi movies, then people would still go see them despite them being made by Disney. But the fact that these movies are pretty much just drivel and trash, that's the reason why they're failing. Now he makes excuses saying subjective comms with the story choices aside from Rise of Skywalker suffered due to a lack of polish and narrative coherency. Yeah, the fact that it was basically a hacked up mess when it came out, it didn't help it gain any more viewers than what it was going to make on its first weekend. And then the article performs the one thing that Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers said was going to happen as soon as the movie had its final tally in. That despite Episode 9 barely making $1 billion, the whole Star Wars Skywalker series was a total success. Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers knew that this was going to happen. At least I'm pretty sure he's the one who said this, that as soon as Star Wars Episode 9 came out and that it, barely broke $1 billion, they're going to look at the entire saga and say it was a complete success, that it was a $1 billion earner for Disney. And yes, it did earn $1 billion, but in the last installment, it should have earned more. And they spent so much money promoting this movie that it's barely even a blip on the radar when you see how much they made. I mean, I think they spent, as I've said before, $800 million making and promoting this movie. It might just be $800 million just from the promotions, and they spent more making it. And then they had to reshoot it. But after it's said and done, they've maybe made $200 million in profit. Because the other money they made was just them recuperating the cost of making the film and then promoting it. That's not a success. And that will definitely be known by people who've seen the movie or haven't seen it. They'll just know it as the failure of the Star Wars saga. How do you like this video? I basically just gave my opinion on it and basically commenting on the facts that were written out in the article. Now, usually I would just spout out the article and just make a few comments at the end of the video. But I saw this article was basically mostly just facts about different movies, not just Star Wars Episode 9. And I thought if I just repeated them, it'd be a pretty boring video, so I decided just to give my opinion on what I was reading. So if you liked it, please subscribe. Make sure you're still subscribed because YouTube is going around unsubscribing people. And if you're watching my videos but you're not subscribed, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Read Comics They're Bad For You. Then go over to BitChute and subscribe to my BitChute channel, Comic Freak. Hit that bell for notifications, hit that like button, and leave some comments down below. Please share this video, share it on Twitter, share it on Reddit, and share it on Facebook. Share it anywhere you think it'll do the most good, because YouTube is not going around promoting their own YouTube creators anymore, and it would really help me if you could please share this video. Now listen closely, it's plug-in time again. Keep checking back in all my future videos for more information on my own upcoming independent comic book scumdogs. I'm Chris Williams, and I'll be back again tomorrow with another video or review.